Solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Victory looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind Topor Stanley? It doesn't matter! Costa Barbarouses! Wow!
Like a salmon, a spawning salmon. And Diamanti again! Oh, he's done it!
Unbelievable kick from Maria.
It is a pivotal next 12 hours for Australian football. And I don't know about you guys at home, folks, ladies and gentlemen, but Jason Goldsmith and myself, Lockie Flanagan, here on the Oz Football Hour, we are nervous. We are very, very nervous ahead of the Socceroos' crucial game coming up against the UAE overnight. We must win, not to qualify for the World Cup, but to get us to the game that will qualify us for the World Cup. But as nervous as we are, I have had those lingering doubts settled a little bit, because I know that when the Socceroos go out there tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. in Qatar, they are going to channel the Aussie DNA. They're going to channel the Aussie DNA. And even if I am scared at home, I know they'll have their backs to the wall. They will be rallying up, getting on the pitch, chasing, fighting, and harassing, doing everything that's required to win this game for the boys at home. Or at least that's what Graham Arnold says they're going to do.
It's not very inspiring for those that follow Australian football. And what about for CSI Doha? Our DNA will be everywhere. Any crimes committed tomorrow,
harass
we're
as
in
well.
trouble. We're in trouble.
I know.
Harass, chase, tackle. We're bigger than them. We beat up these kids in Asia and stuff. It's old news. It doesn't work, and it's not super inspiring. But we are in with the shouts. We're playing in Qatar. The bookies have installed us as favourite. And we had a warm-up game, fairly uninspiring, but a win nonetheless last week. And we're good to go. We win tomorrow. We play Peru. Peru beat New Zealand 1-0 in a warm-up as well. So let's see how we go tomorrow.
Is it fair to say that this is perhaps the weirdest pre-qualifier atmosphere ever in recent history, at least?
Agree. It's like we're cold snap in Australia at the moment. We're all kitted out like we need to be.
Yeah. This studio is usually a furnace. I've been wearing coats on every show for the past few weeks. So
that's the situation. If it wasn't being held in Qatar, this World Cup, it would be on right now. We'd be watching the World Cup right now. But
which
the temperatures suggest
scary thought. But yeah.
Temperatures suggest that we can't be there. It's 38 degrees there at 10 a.m. right now in Doha. So we have to wait and push it out till November and December. So, it is very, very different. And you know what? A 4 a.m. playoff is not in the midweek too, is not so inspiring. I don't think I'll be going to any live sites to watch this.
Yeah, no. The conditions are different. The nature of the Qatari World Cup is different. But I also feel like the general mood amongst the fandom is different. And I don't just think that's the weather. Like, I think even thinking back to 2018, I still believe that there was, and maybe it's to do with the opponents that we had to play in those qualifiers. Obviously Syria, but they were no easy beats, and then Honduras we got the job done against. But there was belief. There was a lot of belief back then that it could still be done underage. I think maybe Melbourne is not the most reliable place to be reading the weather from and assessing the temperature. But even all my checking online, I'm seeing a remarkably low level of belief for what probably, realistically, I think is a game that is up for grabs for the Socceroos. A lot of people seem consigned to not qualify.
A lot of people do feel that way, which is really quite sad. But if you want to take it back to the last campaign and the last cycle, right? We were Asian Cup champions, right? So we had a bit of that to hold our hat on. We were the champions of Asia leading into the 2018 World Cup. There was talk about Tim Cahill scoring in 4 consecutive World Cups and equaling records that way. So we had Timmy, who was a a big face of the national team and still is a big face of the national team, even though he's retired. He addressed the boys as a Qatar ambassador this week. He was in the Socceroos camp. We had an outstanding captain in Mile Jedinak as well, who was still plying his trade at a top level in the championship in England. So we had some recognisable faces in terms of the team and some success from the team as well. And we don't have it this time around. We had a mediocre Asian Cup. The qualifiers have petered out. We're trying to keep holding our hat on the 11 wins in a row, but they were against the Asian minnows. And when we came to qualification in this group, we stuttered and we spluttered, and we're lucky to be in the playoff. But we are alive and kicking. So where there's life, there's hope. So we've got tomorrow the UAE, get through that, and then Peru hopefully. But let's see how we go tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean it is alarming that we're talking about a game that other people would maybe say is a coin toss, is a 50-50 chance, could go either way, as though it almost doesn't matter. But I'm going to throw out a bit of maybe a slightly rogue theory here. I almost think that the UAE game is the harder of the two games. Obviously, Peru are a great nation, a well-respected footballing nation. They have beat us pretty comprehensively in previous fixtures. Of course, the
last World Cup.
The last World Cup, that was as depressing of an evening as I can remember being a Socceroos fan.
3-0, wasn't it?
And that was back when I actually had hope. So now you can tell how much that would have stung me. But despite that, they haven't been overwhelmingly convincing in their qualification. And they're a team that, similarly to the Socceroos, can be quite ineffective, impotent even in possession when they're actually forced to be the side who dominate the ball. And I think that given the kind of expectation that comes with being a prominent South American nation, playing in an Asian playoff, playing in an Oceanic playoff, like it or not, the reality is that they are bigger footballing nations, and they believe that they are the favoured side. And in many people's respects, so they should be. But having said that,
so yes, I agree. So UAE, you think that's the harder of the game. Let's break it down for a couple of reasons that I would agree with you. So we'll talk about the conditions. So they are in probably their favour. We're playing in the Middle East, all right? We are not strong in the Middle East. We haven't. We're Asian Cups in the Middle East and our qualifiers in the Middle East. It's not a happy hunting ground for the Socceroos at all. The UAE team all play pretty much at home. Yep. They don't export any of players. They've got some naturalised players into their squad as well.
Well, it's interesting because one of the big features of this game returning to the UAE squad, and one person that I know a lot of Australian fans will be looking out for, and despite his recent return from injury, is maybe in line to start this game, is Omar Abdulrahman. And I'm going to do what everyone else has done in speaking about him so far and reference his outstanding performance at the Asian Cup that we had here in Australia in 2015. And he was one of those players where it just looked like he had, after that outstanding run at the Cup, world at his feet, was going to go on to, maybe head to a lower European league and could have stepped up into something else.
Was he coined the Middle East Messi around that time?
I think so.
He was? No?
There was also Sardar Azmoun for Iran, who I think was the Iranian Messi at the time.
Anyway,
there are a lot of Messis. There have been a lot of Messis. Well, not actual literal Messis. There has only been one, but a lot of namesakes definitely over the years. But again, he's one of these players who, and it's a bit of a theme with promising young talents in some respects from the UAE, where the temptation to stay with a hometown club where an owner is usually offering you a pretty considerable sum to stay and be a star of the domestic competition, as opposed to the challenge of slugging it out in a lower European league to try and build your way up. Omar Abdulrahman is a very good example of that. He has had some injury concerns as well. Of course, he's coming off one very recently. But I think sometimes people look at a squad like UAE without knowing too much about the football and see that they're all from the domestic league, and that kind of influences perception of how good the team must be. They don't, because Australia are a nation who we judge ourselves so harshly off how many players do we have playing in the top 5 leagues. Well, the UAE don't have any of that, and I think sometimes that can manipulate people's perception of
Possibly, I mean, they're
the standard of the opponent. But we're talking about a team who pretty much, they did finish in third in their AFC World Cup qualifying group, behind Iran and South Korea, who are probably two of the best nations maybe even the two best nations at the moment in the Asian Confederation. And they were pretty much by the end of it the same points away from second place that the Socceroos were. I think it was 3 points difference.
And to your point, though, they're incentivised and paid quite handsomely to remain in the UAE, which is why a lot of these players didn't go. So Omar Abdulrahman, we talk about, he's had offers for, I think Man City were one of the offers at one stage coming through for them. To counter that, the weather, the approach, the home base, is they've had a bit of turmoil with their manager and managers, I should say. So they've had a few different managers in this campaign, including former Australian head coach at the last World Cup, Bert van Marwijk. So they hasn't been as smooth as we may think for them to rock into third. One thing that we have had is, the same manager. So we can have that consistency. We can have that consistency, right?
That's true.
We've got to talk about this with a glass half full approach, because we are still alive until the playoff. And maybe when we review, if we miss out, we can make the glass half empty. So let's just say we've had a bit more consistency in that respect. Our squad has been together for just over a week, and they had a warm-up game against Jordan, get some of the cobwebs out. It wasn't too inspiring.
Meanwhile, the UAE, a 1-1 draw with Gambia for them in the lead up to this game. Again, a friendly. I think they used somewhere in the vicinity of 23 or 24 players in the single game, but still.
The friendly, they used that many?
Yeah.
Well, that's something that we probably wish we could have done.
Yes.
I think if we go back to the Jordan friendly, there wasn't much on offer in terms of, what's the word I'm looking for? The only real shot and time we had
open play
in open play, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, it was when we had Hrustic and John Rowe and Tilio on the pitch, and they were all subs, came on late. So Bailey Wright scored a goal from a free kick. He should have given away a penalty, wasn't given, no VAR. Mobile's goal for us, he was probably offside too, no VAR as well to put us ahead. Jordan's first goal was cracking in the 17th minute. So
the other big thing as well is, of course, we are missing Tom Rogic, but the UAE are also missing one of their leading attacking talents in Fabio Lima, who's since the naturalised Brazilian, I think, since he has made that step into the national team, I think has scored 6 goals across 15 appearances, and really, when he got his injury, the UAE kind of it coincided with some of the UAE struggles in qualifying, so they don't have him available. And in the same way that UAE have got the returning Omar Abdulrahman, we also have the sort of returning Aaron Moy, who, if you read the scuttlebutt that's going around online, some of the reports that have been put out, he is in line to start this game. What do you think of that sort of a decision?
See, where we've fallen down historically is when we have players at big clubs or overseas that they're not getting regular minutes, and you want players that are match fit. He hasn't played for 7 months. Hasn't played a full game for 7 months.
Did he play, was it 60 minutes against Jordan?
What did he play? Let's have a look. When did he come on? Yeah, he did. But then they said all of his conditioning's fine, his match fitness is fine. He could have played the full 90, was all reports back, and that was some of the propaganda we got from Arnie in a recent press conference. So, look, he's a decent player. He's 31 now, so he probably was at his prime at the last World Cup cycle. We're going to need someone, but he's not super quick. He never has been.
No.
And in terms of a dead ball specialist, which he's possibly in the team for, we have guys that can do that. We have guys that can do that. So
I'll phrase the question differently. Would you start him?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I mean, this leads pretty naturally into picking the 11. So you're not going with Moy. So assuming it's 4-3-3, that's I think a reasonable inference. Who is the midfield 3 then? You'd have to, because this is the only bit that concerns me about Moy. I'm okay with him starting personally, but it's who he starts in place of. Now, hopefully, the chance that he's in line to start means that he's going to be used as a deeper lying midfielder as opposed to in place of Hrustic. So Hrustic has, for me, got to be in there as the 10, but who plays behind him?
I think Jackson Irvine will be playing, will start, and he's someone that they always seem to start with. I don't mind. We've rotated the midfield so often in the last few games for the Socceroos that it shouldn't really matter so much, but they need to start with the right combination. So if it's Irvine, John Rowe, McGree, I'm okay with all of that. Even Kenny Dougal, I like in the team.
Is it wishful thinking of me to suggest that Graham Arnold could go with sort of two more advanced midfielders and one deeper lying and play maybe Moy and Hrustic in a more advanced position?
I'd like Hrustic in an advanced position personally, but
it's probably not going to be more than one.
There's going to be conservative, right? The thing that concerned me more was the back four, right?
Okay, so
we want to start from the back.
Let's go. I mean, Matt Ryan picks himself, obviously.
Correct.
Left back, I think in a game like this, I mean, the fact that Jason Davidson started this game and Graham Arnold referred to the squad that was selected that day as it was a lineup that is far removed from what the final picture will look like. That leads me to think
Bajic.
Yeah, Bajic is going to start.
I think Bajic, again, Graham Arnold has his favourites and he runs through that. I would like Davidson over Bajic. Bajic has lost a bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Bajic has lost a bit for me in terms of the national team and where he's playing. He doesn't have a club at the moment and how he's progressing. So they will start Bajic. That's my personal opinion, but they'll start Bajic.
Okay.
But then he had Bailey Wright and Kai Rolls, but he goes with Sainsbury and Deganich.
Yeah, I don't think either of those two will start.
He always goes with Sainsbury and Milosh will be the central pairing.
And then right back, it's between Atkinson and Frank Karacic.
I don't think Karacic has done much wrong in national team colours from what I've seen. So
he has had a few issues with
injury and
health,
fitness and stuff and health. Yeah, with COVID, correct. Playing in Italy in Serie B. I think Karacic played the full 90 against Jordan. Depending on how he pulls up, I would go with him. I would like Atkinson to be a more regular member of the Socceroos, but I don't think it'll happen in the morning.
I'm trying really hard to keep the blinkers off and not say Nathaniel Atkinson will start the game.
Yeah,
I don't think it'd be I don't think it would be the worst problem for us to have, and it's quite a refreshing change of pace, should I say? For the Socceroos to have a position decision where it's like, which of these two good options do we pick, as opposed to a race to the bottom, which it often is. Okay, so we've got the midfield. So Moy. Well, for me, it would be Moy, Jackson Irvine, Hrustic. I don't think I'd change anything else there. I mean, I would pick. I'd pick Connor Metcalfe if he was in the squad. I would give maybe some scope to Denny Jonro, but again, I'm trying to balance my desires against against the reality, and so I think Irvine, Moy, and Hrustic. If the paper talk is to be believed that Moy will start, I think that is going to be the most likely
I'm on board
way that it looks. Maybe you could make the case for Kenny Dougal, but I don't think it's very likely.
No, again, that's what I would like, but it's not. We're picking the team we think will start versus the team that we would like to start.
Yeah.
So that's I'm okay with that.
And then Riley McGree, I think, makes pretty good sense as a substitute for an Irvine, maybe even for a Moy, because he's a third man runner. We know Graham Arnold likes that sort of player who can provide penalty box threat from a deeper area. So. Especially if we find ourselves down in the game, to have a sort of pivot of Irvine and McGree who can both do that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's a good thing, but it's an option. It's an option.
And we have to be thinking, and because of where we've come from in the last few games as well, that we will potentially, with 30 or 20 minutes to go, be chasing the game and have to throw on some X factors like Tilio as an example, but possibly we will see.
I mean, I can't, when you say we'll have to throw on X-Factor players like Tilio, I can't help but think back to the A-League Grand Final where Patrick Norway was forced
he didn't do
throw on Marco Tilio as opposed to have him attacking things from the start.
I would like Tilio, to start these kinds of games, but he's not going to. And when they talk about any kind of thing that needs to happen in the last few minutes, it'll be Mitch Duke and kicking long balls to him.
Well, and again, it kind of goes back to the discussion we had last week about how everyone was shocked that a player like Jason Cummings wasn't sort of, no caution was thrown into the wind by Graham Arnold.
Yeah.
And again, when has caution ever been thrown into the wind by Graham Arnold?
And
if it wasn't going to be done for the selection of the squad, it's definitely not going to be happening for the starting 11. So we've got the midfield in now. Well, actually, no. Who's your midfield? Because I've gone with Moy, but you weren't going to pick
I would McGree. I would go with McGree. So Jackson Irvine will start.
Yep.
Hrustic is our best player. He has to start. McGree or Moy. I'll go with McGree, but I think Moy will play.
All right. And then the front three.
Well, the thing with the front three is that we have struggled to find goal-kicking front three for a little while now, and most of the goals from open play or all set pieces tend to be. Adam Taggart's in form. I'll have him up front. I think Craig Goodwin is in excellent form and in terms of getting the ball into those guys and would work well with Taggart. So I would have Craig Goodwin in there as well, which probably would be the one that's take Marty Boyle's spot, I would have thought, because Boyle has done that role very well for the Socceroos. And Mobile, I would start Mobile in the front three. So Mobile, Taggart and Goodwin for me.
Wow. Okay. That's Mobile, Taggart, Goodwin. I agree with you on Taggart, and I think he has to start this game.
Mm-hmm.
I could see in the context of the game what the UAE offer, maybe Mitch Duke being given the run, but I just think that would be such a politically unpopular decision that it almost couldn't be made anymore. What I would say is great to have Adam Taggart back in and available for selection in the starting 11.
And in form.
He's in good form, and also he's got the kind of attributes that I was clamouring for Jason Cummings to be selected. He is a bit more of a player who can link up with others. And to that end, one thing that definitely shouldn't happen in this game is, I'm sorry, but Jamie McLaren should not start. He won't.
I don't think he'll get any minutes.
He shouldn't be anywhere near the conversation because UAE, very compact team. They will try and capitalise on our dysfunction in possession. Like the very thing that I think gives us maybe an edge against Peru is what gives UAE an edge against us. And I think they will sit off us, and then the channel running that Jamie McLaren provides is not useful. So Taggart's got to be the striker for me.
Yep.
But I think, again, if we're going along the lines of tried and tested, has Goodwin got enough Socceroos minutes under the belt to justify a starting spot? I'm not sure.
No.
I'm not sure. I think maybe Leckie on the left.
Leckie.
And then Boyle as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
So Leckie he's tried and he's proven. This will be if they make the World Cup and he goes, it'll be his third one. It's pretty impressive, given where he's come from. But yeah, I agree. But I think Goodwin's in better form than Leckie. If you take a look at the whole A-League season, which we look at a little bit closer, you would possibly take Goodwin, but I agree because it's Arnie and what he has done and what he's doing. Yep. It
could also be Mobile, but yeah, I'm going to go with, again, this is not the starting 11 that I would pick. It's the starting 11 that I think we'll see, and I think Taggart, Leckie, and Boyle maybe make sense, or maybe Mobile, Boyle, Taggart.
True, and so off the bench, providing a spark. So let's just hope that the back four don't get injured, and we don't need sort of any cover in that area with the subs. We do have some playmakers, and we do have some ability to change things up a little bit. So you got Marco Tilio, Boyle or Mobile, Goodwin or Leckie, Moy, McGree, and Mitchell Duke as impact players. So potentially Nick D'Agostino started in the friendly. I don't see him getting any minutes for us. I think they're going to go with Taggart. If Taggart and Duke as the front guy, and then the ones flanking them we talked about.
Yeah, and again, as I can kind of, as much as I do not think he should be anywhere near the national team, I can sort of see the justification for a bigger bodied forward like Duke in this game to sort of throw his weight around and try and capitalise on set piece weaknesses that might exist, or help to accentuate Australia's set piece strength as well with his presence in the box.
Correct.
I don't like it,
No,
but
he actually did okay against Japan in the wet up there in Sydney. In terms of coming on, in terms of running the spark. When we were miles off, but he did okay.
Some people did. Yeah, that's true.
I agree with you in terms of he would probably be the better option against the UAE, but not against Peru, and then possibly J-Mac to swap it over in terms of that fox in the box that can probably sneak around the taller defenders.
Okay, so a few differences in our 11s, and for all we know, there's probably going to be a few differences between both of ours and Graham Arnold's.
There's always a surprise, even though he's conservative.
Final pick, but we will be paying attention to it right up until the final. So what do you think is the fundamental thing that decides this game? Like where is the most important sort of area over which this qualifier is won and lost?
Excellent question. The tactics are not really my strong point when it comes to these things, Lockie. But
don't worry, they're not Graham Arnold's either, so that's fine.
I should put my hand up because he loses a job at some stage this year, whether it's the end of tomorrow or the end of the week or end of the year. His contract will be up. Look, I'm really concerned about our back line. The defence has leaked a few goals just from some mistakes. So I'm hoping they will, and I think you're right, they'll go with Bajic and Sainsbury and a more experienced back four to try and work through this. It's going to be won or lost in the midfield, and if we can just burgle some chances, then we're half a chance to be good. Yourself? What are you thinking?
I hate to sort of defer to a very common trope of mine, but the first goal is just so important because, again, UAE, they don't maybe look at Australia, and I think many countries in the Asian Confederation over the course of the qualification and now, even if they're not involved in the playoff against us, are looking at Australia in the same way as they had in recent years. And I think Australians as we sort of started the program by saying, are not looking at ourselves in the same way as perhaps we once did. So
Michael Lynch wrote an article today just on that. So when we first moved into the Asian Confederation, these people had only seen Kuehl and Viduka and Neil on the TV and Schwarzer on the television. They were overawed. Now they don't. They walk out. Who's this guy? They don't know who they're playing against. So there's no feeling of them getting on the back foot. Sorry, interrupt.
No. But even despite that, I do still think that the UAE are going to capitalise on our weaknesses, the biggest of which being, well, as you put, the sort of leakiness of the defence of late, the vulnerability, particularly of that centre-back pairing who can get caught out against sort of quicker forwards. They're going to have their hands full potentially dealing with Ali Mabkout, who you may also remember from the Asian Cup, but is going to have a good game to try and unsettle those defenders. But the other thing is our ability or lack thereof to create against a compact team, against a side who don't allow a lot of gaps between their sort of defensive blocks, their midfield block and their actual central defensive block. We really struggle to break through teams who approach us like that. I mean, Oman, that game as well. Again, that was maybe a game that we deserved to win.
Yep.
But still, we did have our difficulties, and it has been a continuing theme of the Socceroos under Graham Arnold for a very, very long time. It happened, did it not, in the Asian Cup as well? So I think if we see that similar sort of struggle, a lot of dead possession because we can't find an opening, the sort of hero goal that we might be hoping for, the Aussie saviour channeling his super Anzac DNA to rip one from 30 yards into the top right corner. If that doesn't come, then that gives UAE a really significant chance on the counter-attack, and whether or not we can defend against that sort of thing reliably is something that worries me. And so if UAE get the first goal, they can batten down the hatches. They can sit off us for as long as they want and hope that they can nick a goal. And to be honest, I think that is probably the most of, even if you're a good team, even if you're even if you're France, I mean, actually, France do play this way, so that's maybe not a good example. Even if you were Spain, I actually think the best way to beat Australia is just to let them have the ball. And so if they do that, the UAE get a goal maybe early on into the game, I fancy them to grab a second. Now, that all depends on Australia not scoring, But I think that will be that first goal where the game's won and lost, because after that, then the onus is on the UAE. Then Australia can do maybe what comes more naturally to them and be the team that is a bit more reactive and plays on the counter-attack. But if you leave open spaces, someone like an Omar Abdulrahman, if he starts, can pick a pass from anywhere on the pitch, can play players through with ease, and Australia are going to be scrambling to deal with someone who can get that release of pressure on the break like he can.
It was quite telling that that Arnie actually, when he focused on the friendly with Jordan, that it was the first time that we had battled from 1-0 down to actually get the win. So Jordan scored the first goal, and his comments afterwards were like, I was really proud of the boys. Most people watching the game thought it was actually quite a pedestrian run. Why aren't we giving more game minutes to the kids? Are they outside of Kai Rolls? Why isn't John Rowe? Why isn't Tilio, etc. on the park? But he said, we fought back from 1-0 down and got the equaliser and then managed to get the winner, which hadn't happened before. So maybe that's in him trying to get into the minds of his players that they won't drop their bundle, and that might happen because, as you said, the first goal is vitally important.
It's interesting. It's a funny thing, perspective, isn't it? Because Graham Arnold sees our first comeback from behind as a massive positive. Other people, you can maybe guess who, look at that as like, oh, how has it taken this as long? And more importantly, why has it taken us this long? But so going back to sort of wrap up our sort of Socceroos preview, I think this game is going to extra time. I think the Socceroos are more than capable of winning it, but I think it will. I think it can go I think it is capable of going the distance against what will be a very, very resistant. I'm expecting, at least. I could very much be wrong. I often am. UAE. But if we can get through that game, I think the Peru game is more suited to the strengths that Australia have.
Fingers crossed. And if it does go to extra time, it's going to be of benefit for most people that have to go to work straight after the game. That's
true.
They're not likely to fall back asleep on the couch, so I'm hoping for extra time as well then.
And maybe a final point before we head to a break, and maybe talk some Ollie-roos and A-League transfers as well. Irrespective of what happens tomorrow, whether it is our last game in the qualification phase or we have one last chance against Peru, and irrespective of whether or not we win both games and qualify for the World Cup, I just really hope, and again, a lot of it is hope, that we learn something from all of this. I hope we look back and again, I know this is very wishful thinking and I do engage in a lot of it on this program, but we work out why we are where we are now. Why the buzz and the excitement around the Socceroos is at an all-time low, both internally for diehards and for casual fans of the Socceroos who have grown over the years to expect Australia to qualify. I just hope that we take some seriously deep reflection over why that is and the factors, both at a national team level and elsewhere, that have led to that. Whether or not we do it is a big question, and deep down my concern is that before too long, an expanded World Cup is going to reward our mediocrity.
Yeah, correct, it will.
But I just hope, regardless of what happens tomorrow, and the Socceroos could well win, they could well go through to the World Cup. I just hope we have a good think about why it's gotten to this point. And I'm not just talking about the results, because we've been in a playoff before, but why the atmosphere and the discourse is the way it is. That's all I hope that really comes out of this.
Anyway, it's time to set your alarms for tomorrow.
Exactly.
What time? About 5 to 4 I'm going to set mine for.
Yeah.
Get ready to go. Get on the couch.
See, I
put the kettle on.
often find that you can eke in a couple of extra minutes more sleep than that. I mean, maybe the AFC are pretty efficient with their time.
Yes.
But often with English Premier League games, with other internationals, there's usually a good 4 or 5 minutes where there's just faffing around.
I
can wake up for the kickoff and then just boom,
I generally catch the national
scheduled kickoff time and then still be fine.
3:55 for me. I will probably sleep on the couch, so I'm ready to go.
I'm going to go 3:57.
All right, and score?
I reckon that's enough time.
All right, and score? What's your prediction?
It's going to be 1-0 after extra time. Socceroos. I'm gonna do it.
2-1.
Yep, the coin toss.
2-1 for me, Socceroos.
Well, I hope your alarm is set for that game, be it at 3:55 or at 3:57 if you're more of an obscure alarm setter. But don't go to sleep just yet, because we have got to head to another break. But on the other side of this, we're going to talk a little bit about, yes, that goal from Alu Kuol in the Socceroos in the Olyroos, but I wish it was for the Socceroos. But anyway, in the Olyroos as they play in the Asian Cup, and maybe a little bit of A-League men's transfer news as well, because there have been some very, very fascinating ones, and ones that I feel particularly passionate about. But more on that on the other side of this break.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Victory looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind Topo Stanley? It doesn't matter! Costa Barbarouses! Wow!
Like a salmon, a spawning salmon. And Diamanti again. Oh, he's done it!
Unbelievable kick. Mamma mia.
Well, it says, according to my Googling, that scorpions are common arachnids found in gardens and forests throughout Australia. What it neglects to mention over on old Google, they're also very common on football pitches.
Australian football.
In Australia.
Yeah.
In Australian footballers, because we've added... we used to call Riley McGree the Scorpion King, but there's a series of Scorpion Kings now. Maybe we might even have to, develop into like a series of Scorpion Princes and all that sort of stuff. We could get into a full
franchise. Scorpion 1,
a Scorpion
2, 3,
franchise,
yeah.
a Scorpion monarchy.
Yes.
We might even have some Scorpion Queens before too long. I'm not really sure. But the incumbent Scorpion King, usurping or dethroning Ben Garuccio after his spectacular effort during the A-League men's regular season, is none other than Mr. Personality himself, Alu Kuol, scoring a quite ridiculous goal, albeit in a 1-1 draw against Iraq at the Under-23 World Cup. But there has been almost no analysis of the actual performance. Everyone has been talking about this goal, and in some respects, rightly so, because it was arguably, of the sort of 3 most prominent Scorpion kicks, I actually think it's the best one so far.
I would actually say it would be close too. And he had an opponent right on his hammer as well when he did it too. And he was right in the box, so it was fantastic. His reaction afterwards was fantastic for me. He is Mr. Personality. The quicker we get him into the senior national team, the better, because that's someone that we want to see progress and go through, because he was amazing, absolutely amazing. Just taking up from his form in the All-Stars against Barcelona, and the sky is the limit for this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't an ideal game though for the Socceroos, and it didn't start off on particularly the right foot. Cassini Yengi, ironic that I use the term right foot, because Cassini Yengi was sort of sent off for a stamp. It was a bit controversial. There were certainly a lot of people on soccer Twitter who were up in arms about the decision. Unfortunately, and I called the members of Soccer Twitter out on this at the time. We had all this furor about the Cassini-Yengi red card decision. Not a single "we demand an investigation into the red card offence delivered to Cassini-Yengi at a crucial moment of the match while Iraqi players with longer studs held." You know that the meme I'm referring to, right? We didn't have any of that. As Soccer Twitter has lost its touch. Has the referee lost touch with the decision book? Because this was a controversial one. What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, people weren't happy. To be honest, I didn't see too much of it. So I saw the incident. He went off. They weren't happy, but we did score with 10 men against them. So with Quoll's goal, so quite good. People were very, very angry with the refereeing for the whole 90, just not just that decision. So it shouldn't affect us too much in terms of trying to progress out of the group too. There's a game again tonight. And so hopefully we can get enough points. We're at the top of the group at the moment on goal difference and points. See how we go.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, again, the final word on this, I think Quoll is the best Scorpion because McGree, amazing, fluke.
Yes.
It's a fluke.
Yeah.
Okay. Garuccio, great goal. To do it sort of in the way he did, heading towards the ground, catching it in his stride, impressive. But the thing about Quoll is that was completely intentional and he nailed it. And how high he was able to get his back leg up to receive the ball. Like my quads were in pain just watching the replay of that goal. But he, after he realised the cross was going behind him, absolutely meant to do that. Yep. And the execution was perfect.
First class. No, I would rank that the top one as well. Garuccio himself said he tried one at training the day before and landed on his head and missed the ball. So we can understand the difficulty in actually nailing it. And Quoll seems to be doing all the difficult things all the time. So it's not that surprising. So we'll see how it goes tonight. What are the Olyroos take on Jordan in the last match for Group B.
Hopefully it goes the same way as it did for the senior national team.
2-1 would be nice.
I hope they score plenty of set pieces. That'll be fun. I hope it's mired in VAR controversy or lack thereof. But the other good thing as well that puts it in the top echelons is his attitude afterwards. He was nonchalant about it. He did mean it, and he just said, I'll do another one. I'll do it again.
That's what I do. I think
Quolls single-handedly have contributed the best, and I don't like using this word too often, so I'm only using it because it is true, best vibes of any individuals, I think, in Australian football this year. And there's more of them to come because Teng and Didi are both ready. Will be ready before too long to enter the fray as well.
You know, it's as jaded as we are with the senior Socceroos, the excitement level around the current Olyroos and some of the players coming through is excellent.
Yes.
And so, however we go with this World Cup campaign, the next round of players coming through to the next cycle, we need to start looking in 4-year cycles, I think, is exciting. We've got some really good options there.
That's true.
And if we're sending a few more overseas, we're going to fill the team with Tourés and Quolls for the next World Cup, and we're going to be okay.
One of those Olyroos that we did mention before, he was sent off in somewhat controversial circumstances, seeing red, which is also something he'll be doing quite a lot of, paired with black next season at Wonderland. I speak of Cassini-Yengi, who I think it was on Sunday inked a deal with the Western Sydney Wanderers coming across from Adelaide United. So one of the A-League men's leading young talents gets the chance to sort of step into, well, I say larger club. I guess image-wise, Western Sydney are seen as being a larger club, bigger ceiling, I guess. What do you make of this move for Cassini-Yengi?
Well, it's an interesting one. I think you might get a few, well, not get just as many opportunities, but I guess he's going to be up front. They've probably offered him some more dollars, which is probably hard to ignore at that age. As a professional athlete, I would suggest that would get him out of there and maybe some more opportunities. So, yeah, dollars and opportunities.
Can I say something that might shock you, Jason?
I don't know. Go for it.
I'm very disappointed about this transfer.
Why is that?
I am quite disappointed in Cassini-Yengi in particular. I don't understand why he is making what is effectively a sideways move here. He has had, obviously, an injury-affected season with Adelaide, but when he has played, has been a real pivotal player in the Adelaide United side.
Yeah.
He has seen this season two of his other youthful compatriots in the Adelaide United side, Yaya Doucoulé, Mohamed Touré.
Head to France, yeah.
Both getting deals at a very, very decent club in Ligue 1 off the back of Adelaide. So maybe there's a mentality that, I'm using Western Sydney as a platform, as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. But he could have done that exact same thing as Adelaide. He could have left. I think he would have been good enough to leave now. Maybe there's a chance that he didn't get the deals that he might have liked overseas, and so Western Sydney was a secondary option. But I think why not just stay with Adelaide? Like, it's a hard place, and plenty of players have gone and showed it over recent years that Western Sydney is a very hard place to come into and succeed. Yes, they've done the big broom sweeping thing. Yes, they've got a new manager who's got a new vision on the way the club should be run. But we've been here and told this same story at the start of many seasons for the Western Sydney Wanderers, and nothing's changed. What's the guarantee that it's going to this time? I mean, Adelaide made the finals. They were a top 4 team. He is taking a gamble for more money, but potentially not much else for Western Sydney.
That's a tough one, because I think when you find with the A-League, the contracts are so small in terms of length, 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons maximum, you know what I mean, that these players play for more than one club. And he, at his age, and in the Ollie Root team, it might be a springboard for him. It is a sideways move. Yeah, absolutely, it's a sideways move. But personally, it might be better for him to be out of his comfort zone. It's something else, new coach, new direction. Might have been promised the world. It's hard to say.
Sure. But if, for example, Western Sydney go on to have a similarly underwhelming season to
place for Adelaide,
literally take your pick of any of the one, that actually, for me, hurts his value in terms of being able to be sold on to a club in Europe. Because for me, that has to be the aim for him. And I'm surprised, unless it is a situation where, as I said, he maybe didn't get the offers he wanted in Europe and Western Sydney was an alternative for him. I'm really surprised that he hasn't tried to look further ahead. I just think making a lateral kind of move to Western Sydney is actually beneath a player of his ability. Maybe clubs overseas are reticent to take a punt on him because the reliability of his body isn't there. But also, he's a player who, because of his physical makeup and because of the way he plays, he is a very bombastic forward, is going to get injuries. He's going to get injuries crop up from time to time. You have to sort of factor that in if you're making the transfer. And I just think from a personal standpoint, the ambition of all of these young players, especially ones who are being picked at an international level, should be to play overseas. And I'm just really surprised that he's taken, in my view, a massive gamble in going to Western Sydney when he could have stayed at Adelaide, been a leading light, and ended up getting the move to Europe that he may well want at the end of next season anyway.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you or agree with you on that point because we don't know. I mean, it's all pure speculation, and maybe no European clubs coming for him.
But all I'm saying, if the logic,
these agents said you need to have a couple of seasons under the watchful eye of football in Sydney.
But all I'm saying is, if the logic behind this move was that, Western Sydney is a bigger club, therefore it's a better place to be in front of the spotlight of people who might want to send me to a different country, well, then I don't think that logic is very sound, because Adelaide have just had 2 of their players, one of whom wasn't actually playing that regularly in Yaya Doucoulé, move on to an elite club in a top 5 league. Yeah. So I don't know. I was a little bit underwhelmed by this move. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic transfer for Western Sydney, the club. They get one of the best young talents in the A-League. They get a superb striker who will provide so much more dynamism and diversity to what they can offer compared to Bernie Abini, for example.
Yeah.
Offers them so much more in attack. It probably will make them a more competitive outfit. But again, there's no guarantee. Our trust levels for Western Sydney Wanderers have to be, and I'm sorry to say this because I like Western Sydney, they have to be at an all-time low. We cannot trust any intimations that they will just sort of recapture what used to be there just yet. So great move for them, great pickup, but I just wonder for Yangi whether this is the right move or the smart move. Because, and the reason that I sort of bring this up, and this kind of takes us on to another one of the big transfer manoeuvres, is this not a dissimilar situation to Steven Ugarkovich? Steven Ugarkovich moved from the Newcastle Jets, where he was a standout player.
Yeah, follow the coach.
Across to Western Sydney. Yes, he did follow the coach, but again, maybe the logic there was that he could have set himself up for something else at Western Sydney, at a big club, and would have been presumably better paid as well. He went to Western Sydney. It was a disaster throughout the whole time that he was there. I don't think he's done anything to improve his transfer value in the time that he was there, because
he wanted out and got out.
That's true. He hasn't played as well at Western Sydney. I don't think the people he's played alongside have played to his strengths, and now we see him moving along to Wellington Phoenix on a 1-year deal.
Again, player for the manager. Like I don't begrudge him this as well. He followed Carl Robinson to the Wanderers and was probably on a promise there in terms of how he's going to play and the rest of it. And new coach, new direction didn't work out for him. He's now, he's 27 years of age. Okay, so he's played overseas in Croatia. Chances for him to make some money are running out. He's probably got 5 years to do so. And if they offered him more money to go across the ditch, then do it. Like, I don't begrudge him that as well. So what we have in this league, unfortunately, Lockie, is we have players that play for 4 or 5 different clubs. Even the really good ones play for 4 or 5 different clubs. And we talk about a few of the others. Now, Oliver Bozanic is going to be leaving the Central Coast Mariners, okay? And
hasn't he? I could have sworn he already left the Central Coast Mariners. He's
played for them twice.
He's been AWOL
He's played for Melbourne Victory. He's played for Melbourne City, played for Hearts. And the rumour is he's going to one of the Sydney clubs as well. And he was a standout for the Mariners as their captain, I thought, at the start of this season. And he's moving on. It's an unfortunate part of the league that needs to be addressed, in that what's the word I'm looking for? The jobs sometimes aren't there. They get 1 or 2 year contracts. If they get an extra 10 or 20 grand to go to another club, they tend to do it. And we lose these players. So we can't, and hence the uproar for Ninkovic, because he was there for so long and they've offered him a lesser deal and he wants to keep going.
Well,
right? That's a different one too. So I don't begrudge Ugarkovich or Oliver.
My problem is not with Ugarkovich, though. I just think like that move to Western Sydney, again, an example of a sideways move. I don't think it delivered him what he might have wanted out of it. Maybe he was sort of sold a dream by a manager that came across and then subsequently left. And I just feel like we've had a season and a half of Steven Ugarkovich just sort of stagnating. And now he'll go to Wellington. He'll probably have a really good season. He'll probably play really well, end his 1-year deal, and might even be in with a shot of getting a big move and having a couple of seasons, sort of Aaron Moy-esque late crack back at Europe. But I think he was good enough to do that before he went to Western Sydney. I just think that was a mistake, and I worry that maybe Cassini Yengi is making the same error. Okay. But I'm not. We're not going to go back to Yengi. We're not going to go back to Ugarkovich.
One of the moves though, Lockie, that is a positive, because this kid needs minutes, is Stefan Kolikovski going to Perth Glory from Melbourne City.
A great move for Stefan Kolikovski. I hope that this is something, or set something of a trend for Perth Glory in the market. I would really like to see their strategy this off-season to sort of not mirror Central Coast in the academy kind of way, because no one can really contend with the numbers of youth products that Mariners have got at their disposal, but to really target promising young youth players from the bigger clubs who aren't getting as many minutes as maybe they deserve, and bringing out the best in them. I just hope this sets a trend for Perth of that kind of approach. And I think they've got, if they're going to do that, they're off to a flying start with Stefan Kolikovski. I think if he starts regularly, can deliver a great deal. And we saw how much a difference, not quite to the same level of impact that Marco Tilio has had, but in a similar vein, the amount he's been able to influence attacking proceedings in minutes off the bench for City. I do think this reflects poorly on City, though.
Well,
I think.
who's he going to replace? Like, he's not going to take Lecky's spot or McLaren's spot.
No, but
or
I think that's the
spot.
reason that
That's the way
it
he's
reflects
going.
poorly on City.
Yeah, well,
Because we shouldn't be talking about a promising young youth player who can't get a sniff.
We want it to be a development league. What you're talking about, sideways moves and development and moving overseas, we want that to happen. Absolutely. I want it to happen all the time.
Sure.
But it's not a development league. So Paddy Kisnorbo is not going to say, I need to develop 4 Socceroos and I've made that KPI. He's got to win silverware. And if he does it with 3 30-year-old
But
Socceroos.
He had 3 30-year-old Socceroos and he didn't win the grand final. He played Tilio and Kolikovsky alongside each other the previous year. What did he do? He beat Sydney FC 3-1.
Yeah, correct. But he's going with a tried and trusted formula. That's what I don't agree with. I agree with you. I don't agree with this, but it's not a development league. So
No, that's true.
So if he's got Matthew Leckie, who's played in the Bundesliga,
yes,
and he's played in going for 2 or maybe 3 World Cups, he's going to start him ahead of a 22-year-old kid who's scored 3 goals in the
and that's
A-League.
fair enough. But my actual, if anything, my largest aggravation with it is not to do with the on-pitch stuff. It's the off-pitch stuff. Stefan Kolikovsky, for those who don't know, and I'm sure almost everyone does, he's a boyhood Melbourne City fan. Probably the only example that City have got to call on of someone who has come through as a fan and made that transition to a senior player. This guy loved the club. He absolutely loved Melbourne City, and the fans loved him in turn. And City have just let the best off-pitch narrative, and let's be real, City are a team who off the pitch, for a variety of reasons, struggle for positive narratives to find. They've just let him go. He's barely featured, and he left without even getting a final chance in the GF to sort of come on and applaud the fans as he walked on and get that final moment. I just think that they have really, really wasted a huge talent and someone who brought a lot to the club when he was given the chance to show what he could do on the pitch. But most importantly, off the pitch.
You're clearly a romantic, which is wonderful, Lockie. And I agree with you, but it's not going to, that sort of marketing boyhood guy, everything's not going to change anything. He may have gone with their blessing. You know what? I can't give you minutes because I've got Leckie. So how about you go to Perth and you see how you go? If he was, So I think it's a great move for him personally.
I agree.
Not for the club, perhaps for the reasons you mentioned, but for the good of Australian football or even North Macedonian football, him going over to Perth and getting regular minutes is a great thing for him personally, and hopefully a great thing for the league, where we actually have a situation where he's played a couple of good seasons in the A-League, goes overseas, and we have the conversation saying, actually, why don't you play for the Socceroos instead of playing for North Macedonia's under 23s?
That's true. Well, I think I need to decompress, Jason. Have we got any other things to get through?
Nothing really. There was there's rumours that Daniel Arzani might be coming back to the A-League. Western Sydney Wanderers, I did pick up on that. And then there's a few sort of mature age foreigners that are finishing up. So Jenkinson's leaving Melbourne City and Jakobsen is leaving Adelaide United.
It's a shame, but not a surprise to see Jenkinson leave, I guess.
And the merry-go-round will continue, but that's where we are.
It will, but I've got to go fill up a bath, light some candles. Clearly, I'm very stressed about the game tomorrow. And sorry, Jason, if I've taken that out on on the airwaves.
Offense.
But I'm going to go get the incense burning, relax, do some meditation, and hopefully when I wake up at 3:57 in the morning tomorrow, my chakras will be aligned, I'll be nice and relaxed, and then hopefully the Socceroos don't undo all of that good, positive mental work that I have set down.
Positive vibes from you, Lockie, yes.
Exactly. Well, if you have been listening to us on the Oz Football Hour ahead of the Socceroos must-win qualifier against the UAE, I hope you're feeling the positive vibes as well. I hope you're nice and relaxed, and I hope that when we see you next Tuesday here on Football Nation Radio, we can be talking about the Socceroos being one game closer to featuring in Qatar.
Go the Socceroos.
Absolutely. Go the Socceroos. Thank you very much for your company on the Oz Football Hour. If you have missed any of the program, make sure to head over to your preferred podcast platform, Spotify. I don't know what are you a Spotify user as well?
I am,
others?
Spotify. It's on Fetch, YouTube.
Apple Podcasts as well. That is probably the predominant one. But yeah, anywhere you get your podcast, you can catch up on the show, or you can also watch the live stream back if you're that way inclined. But until next week, the Socceroos' fate will remain undecided, but we'll get to break it down, good, bad, or otherwise, in a week's time. But we'll see you then.
Victory looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind Topor Stanley? It doesn't